Hey, how you doing? This is Kitch, and you are watching me play Spaceblock. We are doing fairly well over here. I think I've got things balanced out fairly nicely. All of our speed module facilities are running, except for that one. Why are you not running? Because you're backed up. It's a good problem to have. Carry on. And all of our rocket control unit plants are currently running. We are building a rocket. We've got a backup of low-density structures as well as rocket fuel. We are at 85%. So we are very close to launching our rocket. Just a couple of more rocket control units, and we should be good to go. Everything pretty much is, as was, I should say. I did make an adjustment to the coal. I added a couple more machines. I added a full block, and everything really started to back up. So I toned that down a little bit. We now have 4 extra machines running, and that seems to be okay. It'll take a little bit of time for that coal buffer to burn down to see if that's actually right. We just weren't getting enough coal up here to the plastic, and these machines weren't running, and that was causing our red circuits to fall behind, and all the stuff that entails. But things are looking pretty good right now, and I'm happy. I'm happy. So let's go ahead. We will roll the intro. We'll do a little base tour, see what could have been done worse and what could have been done better. So a couple of big things out of the way. This is the Spaceblock mod. It's kind of like Seablock, but in space, without the sea. You basically start on a little tiny mound of dirt, and you have to build out. You have to build out all of this stuff. So there's a lot of landfill generation involved, as well as it's very similar to Seablock, just without the angels and bobs stuff. We're just playing vanilla Factorio here, with a couple of twists. This is how we generate most of our materials. At least early on, that's how we did it. It's a little process here that you can run in an assembly machine. It takes in 5 of item and produces 6 of item. So every time this process runs, it's basically feeding itself and producing an excess one each time. All of the base materials are generated that way: coal, iron, copper, stone, wood, uranium to some extent. It does have an additional requirement, and even oil has a recipe. And about halfway through, maybe, there was an update that occurred that added a couple of additional recipes for creating things that are a tad bit more efficient. And we'll get into those in the later sciences. But starting out, I think you're pretty much limited to these. And so, yeah, it's just a matter of you generate your own resources. You can put them wherever you want. So that's kind of that idea is what kind of inspired, I guess, the design philosophy I went with for this particular playthrough, which was spaghetti modules, many spaghetti modules. We're looking at a 45 science a minute base. I believe those numbers are accurate when it's actually running, which it's currently not. Let's research something. That'll be good. That uses all the sciences that we currently have, and it'll burn through some of that. So yeah, 45 science a minute for all of these modules. I chose that because that's like the minimum amount that I feel like progresses nicely. Anything lower than that, you tend to be waiting on science a little bit. That and above, you pretty much are going faster than the rate that you're researching, and that's where I like to be at. That seems like a pretty good place to be. And also, it's a size that makes the module sizes a little bit reasonable for the spaghetti module setup thing that I was going for. So let's just kind of start over here and take a look at what occurred. I guess we'll start with power. Scenarios like this scenario and Seablock are really the only 2 times in Factorio where I've really had to give really big considerations to power. Usually in a normal Factorio playthrough, it's just like, oh, I don't have enough power. Well, let's make more power. In this, there's a little bit more consideration you have to make because you do have to account for the fueling of said power source as well. I went with 2 designs on the steam boiler front. The first, I started out with coal, and I think we have 3 of those running off of coal. It was originally just 2. And then I decided to experiment a little with doing solid fuel. So this area right here is basically dedicated to just creating solid fuel. We're going from nothing all the way there. So these refineries here are running the duplication process. It takes 125 crude oil, produces 175, so we get 50 every time this guy runs through. And then we have that feeding into a tank, which is feeding back into itself. So it's producing its own oil, and then the excess is pumped on into these guys, and of course that's what we're using to create our solid fuel. And this line of solid fuel here, this number of machines, is enough to run 2 columns of these boilers. And I think we're running the 2 down here on the end. Now this line is backing up right now because most of our power is coming from nuclear. It seems like there's no excellent way. I mean, solar does have an argument, I guess, in that you don't have to worry about it. It's just free. You just plop it down, right? You just plop down accumulators and solar. It's a little expensive to make, and even though you don't have to worry about all, you know, the production takes power, right? These machines aren't free. We actually leech away power that we're generating for the stuff that's generating the stuff to generate the power. Where solar, you don't have that problem, but it is a lot more expensive to maintain, and also it's uses a lot more landfill, a lot more area. So yeah, I went with steam at first, and then finally until we discovered nuclear and got that all set up, and this is the way to go, because this right here is producing a lot more power than all that up there, and just works out really well. This process right here is the upgraded version that I was mentioning earlier. This came in about halfway through. It was a new feature to the mod, as it came in an update. This process does pretty much the same thing, takes in 125, creates 175, but there's a 10% chance to generate additional oil. So we get bonus oil coming out of these. It's smaller, but it is a little bit more complex in that you actually have to heat up the oil before it goes out, and that does require fuel. I was trying to do it off of a solid fuel maker. We're producing more solid fuel than we needed in this particular scenario, so our fluids were backing up, so I just brought in coal. We're bringing it in up here anyway. That worked out well. The uranium is kind of the same process. It takes in 5, produces 6, but it also has the addition of sulfuric acid, and it's made in a chemical plant, so it moves a little bit faster. Produces a little bit faster because of the crafting speed of 1 as opposed to the 0.75 that we have in the normal assembler. But yeah, after that, it's just a pretty standard nuclear setup. We do have Covarex going. We're chewing up some of this. Actually, I don't have my initial chest of 238 chewed through yet, but we're close. We're very close. And yeah, no, we've got enough nuclear for days. We're actually starting to get a nice little stockpile of 235 there. This little production area right here is what I'm using to feed basically my little starter mini mall here. I've got 3 belts coming up, and then just a number of machines creating a lot of the miscellaneous items that I needed. These are really all of the items that we used. I would handcraft everything like refineries. It's not that big of a deal for me. And then this is what's used to support that. We have a little bit of a stone maker over here that's producing brick for furnaces. And we have stone bricks and, of course, iron ore coming up here to make some concrete. Very, very good. This up here is our dedicated landfill maker. Whenever I first started the mod, there was a little bit of a bug where you can only make landfill the old-fashioned way, which was with which was with a lot of stone. And I wasn't too thrilled about going through the mod with that recipe, just because you know, it would have been a lot of stone makers. Luckily, there is a recipe that that just takes a red science pack and landfill to produce an additional landfill, and this works out a lot better, much more efficient. But I've set up a little facility here that's generating all the ore we need, smelting all the ore we need to make the components, to make the red science, to then make the landfill. It's all backed up right now, because I've been pretty conservative with my landfill making, if I'm honest. Just because, kind of with the theme of the series, I was trying to make things kind of spaghetti and compact as possible for each independent module. So this is completely independent, other than power, to produce landfill, everything that's needed for that. This one right here is a little bit different. This came in a little bit in the late game, but this is producing oil barrels and producing all the base resources that we can in order to create this stuff right here, which is space matter. And the space matter is what is needed to make the next level resource making things, like the oil, and we'll see the smelting area, or the resource generation areas in the later sciences when that came about. They do take quite a bit of each item, 10 of each thing. Other than crude oil barrels, it needs 5 of those. But it does produce bonus space matter at a 10% rate, I guess. 10% chance of producing an additional one. I don't have quite enough machines here to support 2. I actually set this up for 1 and then realized I had an excess, so I put another one in because we just needed a lot of that stuff toward the end. Over on this side is our robot making facility. Here we go. Here's the upgraded process right here. It's very similar in that it takes in 5 of an item, produces 6, so we get a bonus one, but it also has the 10% bonus to create an additional one. And plus it doesn't require an assembling machine. It takes up a little bit smaller footprint, but it does require coal coming in or some kind of fuel. I wasn't really sold on it until I saw the footprint sizes that some of the later sciences were. It's much better, and it has a faster crafting speed as well, because these have a crafting speed of 1.5. So yeah, it definitely makes up for it in the end. But yeah, no, this is all dedicated to making robots. Hindsight being 2020, I probably would have done this differently. It seems like a lot of real estate just to produce the minimal amount of robots that we've used in this series. I didn't really set up any. I don't even know if any logistics robots have left the robo board. I just don't use them. I probably could have in some key places, but did not. Let's research something else. It totally doesn't matter. Research the quality of life stuff. So yeah, I would have probably incorporated this into more of a mall setup like that. Hindsight being 2020, but it worked. And it served as a nice little place to stock up some blue circuits and red circuits for some of the things like armor and roboports and such. So yeah, the science, 45 science a minute was the target of this base. 45 science is about, a minute is about the minimum I like to do in a Factorio playthrough. I feel it's the minimum that gives a good, like, science progression where you're not actually waiting on science in order to do stuff. It comes in fast enough. 45, I went with the lower because of the way I designed these. Now, the design philosophy behind all these is that each one of these is a module that's almost completely independent, producing everything it needs to produce the science at that rate. So this one is our red and green science. We're producing all the iron ore, all of the copper ore, all the smelting, all the coal needed to run the smelters, all the items needed to maintain science at that rate. And I feel it's been working out pretty well. Some of the designs are a little bit more spaghetti than others, but it's worked out really well. Pretty much the only thing coming in is the power, which somebody had an idea that we should have incorporated power into there. They left a comment about it, and yeah, I think you were totally right. I should have done that. Just making power part of it be a completely independent module then. But yeah, no, this is red and green science. Down here, blue science. And it's kind of interesting with these little modules. You can see that one right there is the red and the green science. And then this one down here, this is the blue. You can see how these grow in complexity as you move up the chain. But yeah, no, here's all our blue science. We've got all our circuit makers over here, all our engine makers here in the middle. And the blue science spitting out on the side over here. All of the refining and everything we need is going on right here in the middle. Smelting and stuff in this area. And then, of course, all of our ore generation down here at the bottom for the blue science. Yeah, the red and green science, I was trying to make this kind of orderly and in line, and I think I did a pretty good job there. The blue science, spaghetti's starting to kind of sneak in a little bit, but for the most part, I thought this was a pretty well laid out little system here. Everything's still fairly in line. We don't have a lot of crossing belts and things. And then over here on the purple science, we start to get a little bit more spaghettified with some of our belts. But yeah, no, purple science, we can see things are starting to get real here. I got refining over here tucked away in the corner. It's still somewhat small and manageable. Red circuits, green circuits, all that stuff coming in through here. Going down to purple science here. But yeah, no, it's with the purple science where it really started to... That's when the resources really started to kick in. As you can see, we've got a couple of machines up here making resources for us. And these are, let's see, I believe it's 100 machines. 100 of the blue assembly machines in a line is what you need to create... Oh, I'm selecting some from the other side. That's why it's showing 102. But yeah, 100 machines is what works out to basically a yellow belt of ore. So that's why they're grouped that way. Things are a little backed up right now, but working fairly well. Oh, there's a little bit of spaghetti going on there, huh? Even got a fish filter. Job, Kitch. Remembered your fish filter. Be as efficient as possible. And I think it was after the purple science where the mod updated, and we were able to then utilize the new processes. We're definitely starting to get, I don't know, it's still pretty much in line, not looking too bad. It's not nearly as spaghettified as I thought I was doing at the time. There's some crossing belts, there's some shenanigans and goings on all over the place here. But for the most part, it's somewhat tidy. You can follow what's going where. But yeah, no, yellow science. I did combine this where we're doing a 1-to-1 insert on the robot frames and the blue circuits. It's working out fairly well. You guys toward the end. Oh, okay, there it goes. Might have just been looking at a hiccup there. Are all the machines running? Yeah, you're all running. You're fine. Yeah, so that, and then we got our little red section here, all the low density structures, as well as all the circuits that we needed to make. Down here for the refining area, you can see we're starting to get kind of big on our refining. It is growing. Smelting to the side here in a nice little kind of yin-yang pattern. And then we converted over to the new process here for generating ore. And even though we're generating a lot more ore here than we are for the purple science, you can see it's much cleaner, much smaller, much more compact. We, however, did not have an alternative for making coal, so I just threw it down here. Are you guys... Oh, you never had an inserter there. Whoopsie. That's a very, very kitsch thing to do right there. And that is the yellow science. And then finally, we made a little bit of a walk up here, isn't it? Then finally, we did make the rocket science. Or we will be making the rocket science. Speaking of making rocket science, we need to get a way to get the space science out of there. Let's see. We only need that line coming in. But that needs to be on the top. You're not going to spit out on the top, are you? You're going to spit out on the top. Fantastic. All right. Let's do a long-handed inserter. Let's do just a fast inserter, and we'll do that into a chest. And spit that out right here. So the white science will be on the top, and the yellow science will intersect it down here. And then that feeds into our labs. And let's see, you're all cocked and ready to go. Let's go ahead and launch our rocket. I know I should be ending the series on the rocket launch, but gotta run up with it. Can't run very far, but we could run up a little bit. Pretty close to 39 hours. All right. Not my worst time. Could have done better. We're not speedrunning here. All right, yeah, no, but I felt it good. 45 science a minute was our goal, and if we're not going to see the science come out. Let's go ahead and flip that to robot speed. That uses all of them, right? Yeah. All right, so yeah, the rocket setup. We have our rocket control units up here, and then our low density structures right here. I actually stole the setup from over here. It works out really well. Typically what I would do, one of the things I did a lot differently this series is I would typically run belts on the outside and then, run an output belt in the middle or something like that. But I just, put everything in the middle. I've seen other people do it. It's nothing new. It's nothing profound. It's just kind of, it's kind of different, kind of a different feel when you've played this game a lot. Boy, you'd think I'd be better at it. But it's kind of fun to challenge yourself in ways to try to make things as compact as possible. Spaghetti is, although probably not the most efficient, not the most visually appealing, it sure is a lot of fun. And yeah, I've had a lot of fun with it this series. We got our rocket fuel right here. That ratio is perfect. So, yeah, no, just direct insert the solid fuel in there. It's been working out great. We have been light oil, a little bit on the light side. I was thinking that probably had something to do with our petroleum backing up because of the coal situation, but boy, we still have just an excess of coal. I might have only needed one additional machine down there. But yeah, no, rocket fuel there. And then all the intermediate products we have over here. We've got all of our circuits being made. Greens over here, reds in the middle, of course. Plastic tucked away in that little corner. And starting to get a little bit serious in the spaghetti department here. But works. Works perfectly fine. Once you get all the belts moving at the right speeds. Coming in down, we did this mostly in red belts and blue assemblers. Red at the max. Most of it was with yellow. We only had to do reds whenever it was absolutely necessary. With the exception of these two blue splitters right here that we had to put in there just to make sure that we could get enough copper going to our wire. Seems to be working out just fine now. Then down to the smelting section here where we've got all of our smelting columns. Refining is a much more serious deal. We've got more refining here than I think we do in the rest of the base. But, I mean, that's the way it's supposed to go, right? It's supposed to just get exponentially bigger. And that's one of the things that I was kind of sad using the newer recipes that are a little bit more compact. Because I remember that, I think that was the Impractical Factorio series, where I did kind of a similar idea where everything was its own module. And just to see the size of them grow from red science all the way to rockets just kind of made you appreciate the... is it a difficulty curve? The game curve? The gameplay curve? That's what we'll go with. And yeah, then of course we've got all the coal that we're generating here, as well as all of our resources. So yeah, no, it was fun. I really liked the mod. I felt like it was kind of guiding me to go with kind of this design philosophy, or maybe I just really wanted to go with this design philosophy. I don't know, just since we could create our own resources and create them anywhere we wanted to, it seemed like a good way to go. Had I done it differently, I don't know. It might be fun to try this with kind of like a bus setup. Or maybe even like a train setup. I did not use any trains this series. I'm kind of itching to get into some train things. Well, after the last series, I kind of enjoyed the train break. But yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. If you're looking for something kind of just a little extra challenge on your normal Factorio playthrough, something that feels very, very different, even though it's very, very close to vanilla, I definitely would recommend the mod. It is a lot of fun, and it gives you a couple of new ideas to toy with, like how to generate the resources and how to generate the other things and keep that stuff sustainable. A lot of fun. Well, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. Gonna take a couple of days off Factorio, I think, and look into some other things. I'm gonna be taking a little bit of vacation time, but I will leave you in the good hands of past Kitch for some series and some ongoing series that are currently happening. But thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. I will see you in the next Factorio or other series. Have a good one. Yep. Still there.